What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, NeverSay.com, and today we're going to talk about adaptive strongman while trying to fight off a puppy.
We are losing! We are losing!
I guess you're winning. You're probably winning. Yes. I am losing. I am losing badly. Alright, so for those of you who do not know what adaptive strongman is, it's basically the sport of strongman, except for all the athletes has something going on in their lives that does not allow them to do things that a normal able-bodied person would do. So maybe they're missing their arms, maybe they're missing their legs, maybe they're blind, maybe they're deaf, maybe they have cerebral palsy, maybe they have some type of disease that really hurts themselves physically, so they're not able to do things that a normal strongman would be able to do in the same type of fashion. Do not get it twisted. These guys are getting amazing, absolutely amazing things done with the same exact equipment that we use, except we had to use our whole bodies and they learn to adapt to get around it, and it is absolutely amazing, and it's a sport that is not getting enough attention, so that is why I'm doing this video, in hopes to bring some attention to it. And while I do this, I'm going to be laying over some of the 2018 Arnold Strongman, adaptive strongman category, just where they're competing, so you guys can get an idea of what kind of goes on in their sport. Now this is my second Arnold where they had the adaptive strongman category, and I was able to help out a little bit last year, but it did not have nearly as much pop as it did this year, especially the first day. The adaptive guys got to go actually in between Uncle Nick's class. So Uncle Nick did one event, the adaptive guys came in on day 2, did an event, and then Nick came back and finished his events. And so that got them a lot of exposure. And then their main day was on Sunday morning when they actually had 4 events complete. And it was kind of quiet because the Arnold is for the most part over by Sunday morning. So there's remarkably a less amount of people there. So basically Nick and I were hanging out outside the adaptive strongman area and just cheering our faces off for these people, seeing these guys put it all on the line. Let me tell you a little bit about adaptive strongman. So you think about an individual who typically has gone through something in their life that was absolutely horrendous. Now, some of these people were born this way, but for the most part, a lot of these people were just average human beings going about their life, and then some drastic dare to be great situation came into their presence, and their lives changed forever. Now, most people, let's say John, for instance, John goes to our gym. Legless John, that's what we call him because he is not special. He just doesn't have legs. He works just as hard as any other athlete, and we treat him just like every other athlete, so we give him a funny nickname. So Legless John comes to my gym, and you look at him, he blew off his legs in war stepping on a landmine. So one day he had his legs, was in the army doing his thing, and then one day he's in a hospital without his legs. Now that is a drastic change that would send most people directly to the bottom of a bottle, and they would stay there for the rest of their lives, but not people like John, not people like the rest of these adaptive individuals. They have faced the absolute worst that life has to throw at them, and they turned around and they smiled and they said, bring it. Their absolute best day of training, when they feel their physically best as an individual, is your absolute worst day. And then you have individuals like me complaining why they don't get to the gym because they're too sick, or they're too tired, or they don't have time, or this going on, or that's going on, or the job. Meanwhile, you have people that have literally lost their legs who know that doing this adaptive strongman, doing these events might actually hurt them worse. It is going to hurt other parts of their body. It might take years off their lives. It is going to be extremely painful. It's going to be extremely hard. The most frustrating thing that you will ever do in your life, and they still choose to get up and do it every single day. If that is not the definition of determination, then I honestly don't know what it is, and I feel like I cannot do enough to bring attention to these athletes, because some of these people still need to be holding down full-time jobs in a wheelchair while getting their training done, while getting their food prep done, while getting their recovery done. When you guys think about that, if you had to do all of your food prep from a wheelchair, it would take you longer, not because they're less capable, but because there are just more moving parts. It just becomes tougher and more complicated. So everything for these people is more complicated, and yet they still choose to get it done, which pretty much makes any excuse that I can come up with seem very, very stupid. Now, every single one of these athletes that is involved in this Arnold Classic, most of them came back from last year, so I get to know them, and I know a bunch of adaptive guys from our gym, and I can say without a doubt, these are the most positive athletes you will ever meet. It's so crazy. When you walk around the amateur Arnold area, there are a bunch of egos, there's a bunch of people trying to puff out their chests and trying to be tougher than they are, but if you go to the pro level, everyone is super humble. You go to the adaptive category, everyone is super humble. Everyone's super positive. The thing about the adaptive guys, though, is that a lot of people start treating them like they just deserve participation trophies because it's an awesome thing that they even show up at all, which it truly, truly is. Don't get me wrong. However, These athletes do not want to be treated special. They don't want participation trophies. They do not want someone to say good job just for showing up. They train their butts off. They follow their diets. They do their recovery. They do everything that a normal athlete would do because they want to win. They show up at the Arnold Championships hoping to win a world title. They are not there to just show up and participate. So for that reason, we don't treat them any differently. We actually have 4 people at our gym that are adaptive. And that's kind of how I got involved in the whole game. I knew the game existed. I did not know it existed for Strongman, but one day I got a phone call from a guy named John, and that ended up being Legless John, and he asked if he could come try out the gym. I said, yeah, absolutely, no problem. And then he dropped on me that he did not have legs. So if someone doesn't have legs and they're training from a chair, there's a lot of things that you can do. That's probably the easiest adaptation, just because you still have your entire upper body and you can still work things. And that's probably the most common, so a lot of people have thought about that. You get a little more dicey when you start seeing people without limbs and things like that. So virtually the same week that John showed up to start training Strongman, basically all that I told him was, dude, I don't know what I'm doing with this, so if you can be patient with me as I learn, if you're willing to learn, then we'll get through this together. And then he showed up and it's just been awesome. And then Zabi showed up literally like the same week, and I did not know Zabi was coming. Zabi came with a good friend of mine named Ryan, who Zabi is missing part of his arm. He was born without it above the elbow. And then this hand, he only has part of his hand developed. So when he showed up at the gym, I walked up and I introduced myself to Ryan, and then I shook Zabi's hand and realized that I did not have a full hand inside of my hand, and I also realized that he didn't have a full arm. And my brain started spinning because I did not know how I was going to work around this. So I kindly told those guys, you guys get warmed up. I'm going to do a little bit of paperwork and I'll be with you in 1 second. So I turn around and my brain is just spinning. It's going, I don't know what I'm going to do with this guy. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to attach him to the bar. I don't know how this is going to work out, whatever. And then somebody called out, hey, Brian. And I turned around and Zabi was doing pull-ups from a 10-foot high pull-up bar without a full hand and without a full arm. And it was around that time that I realized that Zabi's going to be completely fine. If you guys are not following Zabi, you can see that guy do barbell clean and presses, balancing the barbell essentially on his elbow, because that's what he has, is a little bit less than an elbow. But the things that guy does absolutely amazes me, just like every single person that was in this adaptive category, guys. All of them are so positive. There's one guy, James, there, who actually has a paralyzed arm, cannot use it, but since he cannot use his arm, he uses it for other things. So during the sandbag event, he threw it around and used it almost like a seatbelt to lock himself to the sandbag. When he does Atlas stones, he has to slide on the floor, roll it into his lap, curl it up, and then get it to the stone with one hand. I have personally tried this myself with Atlas stones, and I have no idea how he does it. He is so strong and so amazing. It is absolutely insane. And actually, I saw a video of him this past summer when he was doing a strongman competition where they had Atlas stone for adaptive people from the ground to the shoulder. He took it from the ground to the shoulder using the same lay down on the ground, like kneel down and roll it into his lap technique, got out to his shoulder. Crowd went absolutely nuts, as they should. And then he turned around, he got his hand worked underneath and did a strict press with one hand with, I think it was like 170-pound Atlas stone or something like that. Just absolutely insane stuff that you would not believe. And then I did want to mention this one girl who was pretty young. She was in a seated category in a chair and she was missing one of her legs. Now, she had done some pretty impressive things throughout the entire contest. However, she won this stone event. Now, if you're in a chair for Adaptive Strongman, you are taking the stone from one platform, moving it over to the other platform, which is hard enough as it is because the grip strength, the core strength, everything that requires to do that. And also remember, they are on wheels. Even though they lock down, those wheelchairs are made to lock under a normal person's weight. They are not made to lock under a normal person lifting a body weight Atlas stone or heavier than a body weight Atlas stone. So it's basically like trying to lift weights on an unstable platform on a skateboard with one leg. It's just absolutely insane what these people are able to do. Anyway, this girl ended with a 176-pound Atlas stone and absolutely crushed it. And to give you that a little bit of perspective for you guys, I know a lot of people have not touched Atlas stones. If you took a 176-pound Atlas stone into most gyms, most commercial gyms, if people had not had Atlas stone training, I guarantee you there's not one woman in a commercial gym who was picking up a 176-pound Atlas stone. And conversely, I would bet probably about 90% of the guys could not break that thing from the ground. Now, this little 100-pound girl in a wheelchair with one leg was moving that thing like it was nothing, and they interview the people who win the events afterwards at the Arnold, which they did. So they came over to her and they said, you just crushed that event. That was an amazing job. How do you feel? And her only response was, I just wish there was a heavier stone. I'm not really sure how you can't get behind that. But guys, I am hoping to shed a little bit of light on these adaptive guys. I am going to have an adaptive category in my strongman competition that is coming up during the summer that I'm going to hold. I am getting partially involved in a strongman competition in Colorado that is going to be a really, really massive deal. Uncle Nick and I are going to be part of that. Hopefully we're going to run the entire thing. We will see what happens there. Guys, all the adaptive guys coming from my gym, I just love all of you so much. You guys inspire me every single day. Tommy is actually the North American champion who is adaptive. He is missing one leg, and he has 2 herniated discs in his back right now because, like I said, they're athletes and they train like athletes. Injuries happen just like everybody else, and he's just getting after it. Guys, I love all of you. What you guys do every single day just absolutely amazes me. I hope to bring some attention to the sport. I hope if any of you are involved watching this and there's some adaptive stuff going on near you, go volunteer at it. Go help those guys out. Go encourage them. Go get behind them because honestly, no one else is getting behind them. They are self-motivated. They get up every single day. When other people tell them not to do it, when their doctors say don't do that, their family say don't do that, they still get up and they get it done. And that is hugely inspirational to me. And I cannot get enough of these guys. So, guys, I will catch up with you later in the week. But until I do, go out, do something amazing, realize, keep working hard. Remember what these people do every single day. The next time that you think things are getting hard, be kind to each other. And I'll catch up with you then.